Afternoon, everyone. This is MemphisWeather.net meteorologist Erik Proseus, and we are here to give you a update on what to expect for this evening, as we are under an enhanced risk of severe weather, a level 3 risk for the evening hours. And I know there's a lot of activities going on and outdoor things going on here in the middle of June. Maybe not quite as much with the heat index around 110 this afternoon. We're going to talk about that here in a minute as well, but that's certainly is a lot going on, and I know everybody's interested in what to expect tonight, and so we thought we'd take just a minute here to provide you with the latest update. This is recorded at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, and we'll provide you a little bit of information on what's going on right now, what we're expecting through the evening, and then what's coming behind that as well. After we get behind this evening's weather. So let's go right into the current radar and show you what's going on out there. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, Memphis is right here in the middle of the radar map, and you can see storms off to our east pushing through southern Middle Tennessee down into Alabama, with a thunderstorm watch box out for that area. And then we've got these storms of more interest to us back to our west. These have fired up here in the last hour and a half or so, and are quickly gained strength and are shifting towards the east-southeast. The kind of light pink box that is around multiple counties out in that region is a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 10 o'clock tonight. The yellow boxes that you see are severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect for those storms, and those are pretty big storms that have fired up pretty quickly. And all of this is being driven by a couple of things. First, a cold front is approaching. I hesitate to call it a cold front in late June because it's really not going to be that much cooler behind this front, but it is going to dry us out some. The humidity today, obviously after having a week in the 80s, to step outside today and be slapped in the face with a 110-degree heat index, it's exactly what it feels like. So the dew points in the upper 70s is really insufferable. But behind this front that's coming through, we will see those dew points drop off probably about 10 degrees or so as we head into the next couple of days. So it'll be a dry front, not necessarily a cold front. The next thing is we've got a mid-level piece of energy, what we call a vorticity maximum, but it's basically an enhanced area of wind that is moving into the area just ahead of this front and kind of along it, and that is what is creating these storms to fire off. And then we have this very hot and humid weather, and so that has created a gigantic amount of storm fuel out there that is these storms tap into once they get started. A lot of instability in the air, and that is causing these storms to get pretty strong as soon as they form. And one of our big concerns with the storms that are headed this way is going to be a high wind threat, and that is directly related to not only the stronger winds aloft, but also the very hot air down near the surface that is causing these storms to basically just bubble up quickly and become severe. So this is what we're looking at right now, and we've been talking about for the last couple of days and throughout the day today, the evening threat, and it kind of had that narrowed down. It looked like these storms would form into a kind of a squall line and move through with the threat of high wind into the early evening hours. We're thinking 6, 7 o'clock. The timing on that has maybe shifted just a little bit. It's not a lot, but a little bit later. But we do have some differences in the models that give us pause for just a moment to consider because they have slightly different solutions for this evening. And I want to take a minute to go through a couple of those with you. So first of all, this is the outlook for tonight. We do have a enhanced risk of severe weather. The area that is in the orange color is a level 3 risk, and that does include all of the Memphis metro. You see it's slightly less up to the north, as these storms are going to be moving kind of to the east-southeast from central Arkansas and moving towards the Mississippi River and down into North Mississippi. The most likely timing for these storms to move through the metro is going to be between 6 and 10 o'clock tonight. I know that's a rather wide window, but as you'll see in just a moment, as I show you some of the things that we look at, you'll see why that window's a little bit wide. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have 4 hours of storms. That gives us a little bit of cushion on either end, and with some of the uncertainty that we've got as far as the models are concerned, I think that once these storms move through a particular area, they should move through rather quickly, actually. So if a storm moves moves overhead, it's not going to last for hours. It's probably going to be a very strong wind gusts and some torrential rain for about 30 minutes or so, and then move on, and that should be the end of the severe threat wherever you are. But we will see what looks like a pretty fast-moving system that moves through and tapping into all that energy, producing the possibility of considerable wind damage. We are a little bit concerned about the possibility that some of these storms that move through could produce winds as high as 75 miles an hour. Your typical severe thunderstorm is usually in the range of 50 to 60 miles an hour, right around 60. When you get as much energy as we got in the atmosphere today, we could see some of those wind gusts push higher than that, and 75 miles an hour is a low-end hurricane if you want to compare it to something different. So we want to be careful of that, and also the possibility of large hail. So we'll talk about safety tips here in a little bit, but the greatest threat is going to be the high winds. The next secondary threat is going to be the possibility for hail. We really are not concerned about tornadoes with this system. The atmosphere has a lot of energy in it, but it does not have just the right types of ingredients to produce tornadoes with this. So really not a threat with that. However, a 75 mile an hour wind gust, whether it's blowing in a circular fashion or blowing in a straight fashion, doesn't matter. It is going to cause some problems. And flooding is not a big risk either tonight, because of it could be localized ponding just in areas where they get very heavy rain over 15 or 20 minutes, but it's not an ongoing threat where we expect streams and creeks and stuff to overflow their banks. So those are the threats for tonight. Let's take a look at some of the solutions very briefly here. I wanted to show you three. One of them is a model that I don't necessarily always point to when we're looking at timing of storms and so forth, but this one seems to have a pretty good handle on things today. This is one of our WRF models, a WRF model that is showing what it thinks the radar should look like around 4 o'clock right now, and that is actually not too bad with storms up to the northwest of Little Rock. And as I move this through, you will see how that kind of stretches out into a squall line of sorts. Approaches the river, that's at 6 o'clock. It's got it over Memphis at 7, and then basically weakening some as it moves off to the east, and we get later into the evening, that's 8 o'clock, and then you see how it just moves right on out. So it's one threat that moves through around 7 o'clock and pushes straight through, and this is kind of in the form of a squall line of sorts that would move through. High wind threat, definitely a possibility with that particular scenario. Another one I want to show you has a little bit of somewhat of an idea of what's going on right now. This is the 4 o'clock, what it thinks should be going on at 4 o'clock. This is our 3-kilometer NAM model, one that we do look at fairly often. And at 4 o'clock, it does have scattered storms, not quite as much as of a little cluster as actually going on now. It's a little bit more scattered and widespread. But you'll see as we move into the evening hours to 6 o'clock and to 7 o'clock, this is the 7 o'clock frame, and it is just west of the river, more of kind of a broken line rather than a solid line. That would, if something like this were to happen, we would still have the high wind threat. This would probably give us a little bit better chance for hail, where you've got individual storms, kind of supercells along this line as it moves in, and then that kind of broken line of sorts moves through. That's at 8 o'clock. It's got it over Memphis, and then by 9 it is east of us. And then you see nothing beyond that. So that's kind of what it's looking at, is these more scattered cells rather than a straight line. In this case, not everybody would get a large storm moving overhead. It would be, areas maybe within a county of you. Maybe you'll be underneath one, but not quite as widespread, perhaps, of a high wind threat as we saw with the other model. And then finally, we have our oldie but goodie, one that we typically rely on pretty well. And this morning, this HER model was showing us a squall line moving through right around 7 o'clock this evening. And this is what it thinks the radar should look like at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And you see it has nothing over the state of Arkansas. And even at 5, 6, 7... Okay, now it's picking up on the first cells popping up over in northwest Arkansas around 7 o'clock, and then 8, 9, 10, and 11. So it has kind of a similar idea, but it's about 4 hours later than the other models, and this just is not what is going on right now. And so this is why it's important to look at multiple models, just giving you a little kind of how the hot dog is made here. But that shows you that, it certainly didn't think there'd be anything out there right now, or even for a couple more hours. And it was just wrong about that. Now, the idea of a broken line moving through has some merit to it. I do think it's multiple hours behind, though. It would have those storms over the Memphis area about midnight tonight, and I just don't think that's what's going to happen. So that just gives you an idea of what we're looking at. It's kind of why we have a little bit wider window around the 6 to 10 p.m. time frame. If I had to narrow down to one particular hour that I think the Memphis Metro, the Memphis and Shelby County is under the greatest threat, it would probably be 8 o'clock, plus or minus an hour. So I think we are looking at something during the mid-evening hours tonight. And whether that's a straight squall line or whether that's broken cells in a general line remains to be seen. Let's talk a little bit real quickly here about what we should be doing about this then. A high wind threat means that you need to be prepared for the possibility of trees coming down or at least branches, power outages. You need to be charging your devices. Make sure you've got everything necessary to be able to endure a power outage should that occur. Because we're not worried about tornadoes, we don't need to be quite as concerned about a high amount of damage in a small area, but I will tell you that, again, a 75-mile-an-hour wind will cause problems wherever that goes. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's going to get that, but we need to be prepared for the possibility. If you have plans outdoors this evening, you need to be staying very close to a radar source or some way of getting information because these storms are going to be moving quickly and you will not probably have an hour to get to a safe place. And if those kind of winds and hail are moving through, you do not want to be out in an exposed area. You need to at least find a vehicle, if not something sturdier than that, to be able to take shelter from these storms when they come in. They will come in pretty quickly. They will leave pretty quickly, but you will know that it went by if it goes over where you are. So just kind of keep that in mind. The storms are going to be moving northwest to southeast. So for Shelby County, Crittenden County is to your west. Cross County, up in Tipton County, you've got Mississippi County to your west. Down in North Mississippi, you're looking across the river towards Helena and places to the west of Tunica. So make sure that you know what's upstream and be prepared as soon as you know that these storms are coming in. I do expect we will likely get a severe thunderstorm watch before very long. There is one for Arkansas now, and I expect that will be coming before too long. We also want to make sure that you are aware of the hazards associated with straight line winds. These winds can produce similar damage to a tornado when they get strong enough. It does not matter, again, which way that wind is blowing and whether it's circular or whether it's straight line. It can produce damage. It does cause trees and power lines to come down. You need to get into a sturdy shelter when these storms move through. Stay away from the windows. A strong wind gust can pick up some of those loose outdoor objects, which, by the way, you should be securing by now, and put those through a window. So just be careful of that. Avoid those trees and power lines, things that can blow around. If you happen to be caught out in this, we would recommend that you just pull off and wait for it to pass. It's not going to take hours to go by, but rain blowing sideways is certainly not something that you want to be involved with if you possibly can. So that is kind of an overview of what we're expecting tonight. I hope that helps you out a little bit with what the scenario looks like. Please be safe tonight. Make sure that you've got all your plans in place and that you got a place to be when these storms come through. Behind this, we are looking at still hot weather, but more seasonably hot. Low 90s for the next couple of days. Dry weather, sunny for Monday and Tuesday. Humidity will be down. We'll be looking at heat indices in the mid 90s instead of the 110 range, which is, I guess that's an improvement. And then we are going to see that Texas heat starting to build as we move into the end of this week. When I put together the next forecast for this evening, I am very likely going to put 100-degree high temperatures probably on Thursday and Friday, and there will be some humidity with that too. Thursday and Friday look very, very hot and probably pretty humid. We will see heat advisories again later this week. Another front comes through next weekend and should knock those temperatures back down as we head towards about Sunday. So that's what we're looking at. Everybody stay tuned with us. We do hope that we will be able to do a live stream tonight and bring you wall-to-wall coverage on our YouTube channel. So make sure you find us on YouTube. Memphis Weather 1 will be keeping things going on Facebook and Twitter. Memphis Weather 1 on both of those platforms as well. And we will keep you updated. And hopefully we'll keep our power tonight and be able to bring you the latest as we go through the evening as well. So that's all I've got for now, and everybody stay safe. Have a good night.